Alrighty guys, welcome to our part 2 video here for college football week 12. And of course, this is the 2022 season. We're down the home stretch, man. What a fast season. But anyway, my name is Brock Page. I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And I also sell my personal sports bets on patreon.com/Brock Page. And if you want to see which one of these free picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for a package on my website. And as always, I'll include a link for my site in the description section below. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to take a look at Georgia taking on Kentucky, 3:30 p.m. East. Georgia's minus 22.5, totals 49. The undefeated Bulldogs covered in 4 out of their last 5. And they have arguably the toughest defense in the game. These guys allow just 11 points per contest, and they're in the top 10 in fewest yards allowed. They're facing a Kentucky team who's got one of the worst rushing attacks in the SEC. These guys are actually 103rd in the nation in rush yards per game, really doing little to establish a run. And as a team, well, the Wildcats took the loss in 4 out of their last 7. Losses to the likes of Vandy, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. Now, total-wise, Kentucky's 90% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Georgia saw 7 out of their last 10 stay under the total themselves. Give me Georgia minus 22.5, under 49 in that tight window. That feels like a 30-0 game to me. All right, next matchup, it is going to be Ohio State, Maryland, 3:30 p.m. East. Ohio State's minus 27, total 64. Now, the undefeated Buckeyes covered in 6 out of their last 8. Covers against the likes of Iowa, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. They're also scoring 47 points a game, and they're averaging over 500 yards of total offense per game. They're facing a Maryland defense who's 71st in the nation in total yards allowed. When it comes to covering, the Terps failed to cover in their last 5 straight. Now, Maryland saw 3 out of those 5 games I just mentioned get over the number. Meanwhile, Ohio State's 7-1 to the over in their last 8. They have the ability to put it over themselves. Give me the Buckeyes minus 27, over 64. Next ball game, Miami, Clemson, 3:30 p.m. East. Clemson's minus 19.5, totals 47. Now, this number's just way too big. The Tigers failed to cover against the likes of Wake Forest, Louisiana Tech, and Furman. The Tigers have also struggled with quarterback play. They're 72nd in the country in passing. They're facing a Miami squad who won 3 out of their last 5. Victories over the likes of Georgia Tech, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. This Canes defense actually held those teams to 14 points or less in those victories I just mentioned. Now, total-wise, Miami went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. Clemson saw unders against the likes of Louisville, Syracuse, and Boston College. Give me Miami plus 19.5, keeping that one close, under 47. Next ball game, Penn State, Rutgers, 3:30 East. Penn State's minus 20 on the road, totals 44.5. Now, the Lions should be able to put this one over the total themselves. They're scoring 30 points a game, and they're in the top 35 in the country in total yards. They're facing a Rutgers squad who's certainly not built for a track meet. They're averaging only 19 points a game, and they rank 120th in passing yards. Now, total-wise, Rutgers saw their last 2 straight get over the number. Overs against the likes of Michigan and Michigan State. Meanwhile, Penn State went 70% to the over in their last 10. Give me the Nittany Lions minus 20, over 44.5. Next ball game, NC State, Louisville, 3:30 p.m. East. Louisville's minus 3 at home, totals 46. Now, the Cards got the W in 6 out of their last 9. They also covered the number in 67% of those ball games. Now, Louisville's got themselves a very tough defense. They allow only 20 points a game, and they have one of the better secondaries in the ACC. They're facing an NC State squad who's been relatively ineffective moving the chains. These guys are 97th in the country in total yards per game. Now, when it comes to covering the number, the Wolfpack failed to cover in 6 out of their last 7. When it comes to the total, NC State saw unders versus the likes of Wake Forest, Syracuse, and Florida State. Now, Louisville, on the other side, they went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. Give me Louisville -3, under 46. Next ball game, it is going to be Texas taking on Kansas, 3:30 Eastern start time. The Texas Longhorns are -9 away from home, total 63.5. Now, the Longhorns covered in 6 out of their last 10. They're doing a pretty nice job on offense. Longhorns are currently averaging 34 points a game. They're facing a Kansas team who's in the bottom 15 in the country in defending the pass. This Jayhawk D is also giving up over 30 points per contest. Now, Kansas went 60% to the over in their last 10. No real surprise there. Meanwhile, Texas saw overs against the likes of K-State, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. Give me the Longhorns -9, over 63.5. Next ballgame, Coastal Carolina taking on Virginia, 3:30 p.m. East. The Virginia Cavaliers are -1.5, totals 44. Now, the Cavs did lose 6 out of their last 7 ball games, bottom 10 in the country in scoring. They're facing a Coastal team who won 9 out of their last 10 themselves, and they defend the run very well on defense. Now, offensively, on the other side of the ball, these guys are averaging 32 points a game. They also saw 4 out of their last 6, oddly enough, stay under the number. Meanwhile, Virginia went 80% to the under in their last 10. Give me Coastal +1.5, under 44. Next ball game, Akron, Buffalo, 3:30 p.m. East. Buffalo's -14, total 49. Buffalo got the W in 5 out of their last 7. And they've been solid against the point spread. Out of their last 10 outings, the Bulls covered the number in 70% of those games. They're facing an Akron team who scores only 19 points per contest, and they simply can't run the football. These guys are in the bottom 5 in offensive rushing. Meanwhile, defensively, there's really not many teams in the nation giving up more points a game than the Zips. Now, total-wise, Akron saw overs against the likes of Eastern Michigan, Ohio, and Bowling Green. Meanwhile, Buffalo went 6-3 the over in their last 9. Give me Buffalo -14, over 49. Next matchup, it is going to be Utah Tech taking on BYU, 3:30 Eastern start time. This game's currently off the board, and even though the Cougars should steamroll Utah Tech, well, I'm fearful that this number is going to be just too high when it opens up, because BYU's been one of the worst covering teams in the nation this year. They failed to cover in 7 out of their last 8. And their defense allowed 24 points or more in all of those contests I just mentioned. Now, they're facing a Utah Tech team who got the W in their last 3 straight victories over the likes of Tarleton State, Southern Utah, and Stephen F. Austin. As a matter of fact, the Trailblazers averaged 43 points a game in those victories. Like I said, I think the number is going to be too, big. Utah Tech should be able to cover it. Give me Utah Tech getting the job done against the spread. Next ball game, South Alabama taking on Southern Miss, 3:30 p.m. East. South Alabama's -7, totals 46.5. Now, SALA's on a 3-game winning streak, and they covered the number in 7 out of their last 10. Now, the Jaguars have one of the best defenses in Division I. They're allowing only 19 points a game. They have a top 5 rush defense. They're facing a Southern Miss team who doesn't run the ball well themselves. These guys are in the bottom 20 in the country in rush yards per contest. Meanwhile, as a team, the Golden Eagles are on a 2-game losing streak. Total-wise, Southern Miss saw unders against the likes of Texas State, Arkansas State, and Troy. Meanwhile, 4 out of South Alabama's last 7 stayed under the total themselves. Give me the South Alabama Jaguars -7, under 46.5. Next matchup, UL Monroe taking on Troy, 3:30 p.m. East. Troy's -15, totals 47.5. The Trojans did win their last 7 straight, and they have one of the toughest defenses in the country. They're allowing only 16 points a game, and they're in the top 25 in fewest yards allowed. They're facing a UL Monroe team who lost 4 out of their last 6. They have a tough time moving the chains. They're currently 102nd in the nation in total yards per game. Now, total-wise, UL Monroe saw unders against the likes of Georgia State, Coastal, and Louisiana. Meanwhile, Troy saw their last 5 straight stay under the total themselves. Give me Troy minus 15, under 47.5 in the tight window. Next ball game, it is going to be Louisiana Tech at Charlotte, 3:30 Eastern kickoff. Louisiana Tech's minus 3 away from home, total 65. Now, the Bulldogs covered the point spread in 5 out of their last 9. Covers against the likes of Middle Tennessee, Rice, and UTEP. They've also been able to throw it all over the yard this year. Louisiana Tech's in the top 25 in the country in passing yards. They're facing a Charlotte secondary who's one of the worst in Division I. These guys are in the bottom 10 in the nation in pass defense. They're also allowing over 41 points a game. Now, no real surprise here. Charlotte went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, their opponents saw 8 out of their last 10 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Louisiana Tech minus 3 over 65. Next game, Florida Atlantic taking on Middle Tennessee, 3:30 Eastern start time. FAU's minus 6, totals 51. Now, Florida Atlantic won 3 out of their last 4 games, and they played some exceptionally tough defense during that stretch. They held the competition to just 15 points a game during that span. When it comes to offensive production, not many teams out there run it better than the Owls. These guys are gaining over 200 yards a game on the ground. They're facing a Middle Tennessee defense who's 97th in the country in total yards allowed. Meanwhile, as a team, the Blue Raiders failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Middle Tennessee's last 8 did get over the number. Meanwhile, FAU saw overs against the likes of Florida International, North Texas, and Ohio. Give me FAU minus 6 over 51. Next contest, it is going to be Iowa taking on Minnesota. Not on our big screen behind me, but that's going to be a 4 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Minnesota's minus 2.5, total 32 and a hook. Now, the Gophers won their last 3 straight, and they're covering in 60% of their ball games this year. And, of course, the Gophers are led by this incredibly physical defense. These guys give up just 13 points a game, and they're in the top 10 in passing defense. Now, they're facing an Iowa offensive unit who's arguably the worst in the country. These guys throw for just 152 yards a game, and they're in the bottom 3 in the nation in total yards. Now, when it comes to the scoring, Iowa's gone 70% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Minnesota saw 7 out of their last 10 stay under the total themselves. This feels like a 6-3 game. Give me Minnesota minus 2.5, under 32 and a hook. Next matchup, little AAC action. I'm talking about Cincy taking on Temple, 4 o'clock Eastern start time. Cincinnati's minus 16.5, totals 52. Now, the Bearcats got the W in 8 out of their last 9. And they got a real good group of guys in the secondary. Not only do these guys defend the pass well, they're allowing only 21 points a night. They're facing a Temple team who's got one of the worst offenses in the conference. The Owls are currently in the bottom 25 in the entire country in total yards allowed. Total yards gained. That's what I meant to say. Now, total-wise, Temple saw unders against Tulsa, Memphis, and UMass. Come on, Brock. Cincy, 5-1 to the under, their last 6. Give me Cincy minus 16.5, under 52. Next game, Florida International, UTEP, 4 o'clock East. UTEP minus 13, total 51. And for a UTEP team who's covering in just 30% of their ball games this year, this is a mighty big number for them to cover. Big number for the Miners. This is a Miner offense who scores only 22 points a game, and they really don't throw the ball well. They're facing an FIU team who got the W in 2 out of their last 4. Victories over the likes of Louisiana Tech and Charlotte. When it comes to covering the point spread, the Panthers have gone 4-3 against the number in their last 7. Now, total-wise, 4 out of those 7 games I just mentioned stayed under the total. Meanwhile, UTEP 70% to the under for the entire year. Give me Florida International plus 13, keeping this one close, under 51. Next matchup, Western Kentucky at Auburn, 4 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Auburn's the 5.5-point favorite at home, totals 52. Now, Auburn did drop 5 out of their last 6, and they've been no threat throwing the football. These guys are 113th in offensive passing. They're facing a Western Kentucky defense who's in the top 30 in fewest points allowed. Meanwhile, on the other side of the football, this is one of the best throwing teams in the country right now. The Hilltoppers are chucking it for 336 yards a game. Now, Western Kentucky saw overs against the likes of Troy, Florida International, and Indiana. Auburn went 60% to the over in their last 10. Give me Western Kentucky plus 5.5, keeping that one close, over 52. Next matchup, Arkansas State taking on Texas State, 5 o'clock East. The Texas State Bobcats are -5, totals 51 and a hook. Now, Texas State covered in 4 out of their last 7, and they've done an incredible job stopping the run. The Bobcats currently have themselves a top 25 rush defense. They're facing an Arkansas State team who's limited to just 96 yards a game on the ground. When it comes to defensive play, the Red Wolves are currently 109th in total points allowed. Now, total-wise, Arkansas State did see unders recently with South Alabama, Southern Miss, and Old Dominion. Meanwhile, 5 out of Texas State's last 9 stayed under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Texas State -5 under one. Texas State -5 under 51.5. All right, next ball game, little ACC action. I'm talking about Georgia Tech taking on North Carolina, 5:30 Eastern start time. Now, UNC's -21.5, total 63. But in my opinion here, guys, I don't think the Tar Heels play good enough defense to cover this number. They're certainly good enough offensively, but when it comes to their defensive play, they're allowing over 31 points a game, and they're actually in the bottom 10 in total yards given up. They're facing a Yellow Jacket team who covered in 4 out of their last 7, covers against the likes of Duke, Pitt, and UCF. When it comes to the total, Georgia Tech saw their last 3 straight get over the number. Meanwhile, UNC saw overs against the likes of Pitt, Duke, and Notre Dame. I'm going to lean toward Georgia Tech plus 21.5, over 63. Next matchup, Stanford, Cal, 5:30 p.m. East. The Cal Golden Bears are -5, totals 45. And for Team laying 5 points in the spot here, the Golden Bears haven't been great this season. They're in the middle of a 4-game losing streak, and they gave up a whole lot of points during that stretch. Defensively, this Cal secondary is in the bottom 10 in the country in yards allowed through the air. They're facing a Stanford team who likes to throw it around a little bit, and they also covered the number this year against the likes of Notre Dame and Oregon State. And that Notre Dame game, that was an outright victory, by the way. Now, total-wise, 5 out of Stanford's last 9 did get over the line. Cal went 3-0 to the over in their last 3 themselves. I'm going to lean towards Stanford +5, over 45. Next ballgame, Marshall, Georgia Southern, 6 o'clock Eastern start time. Marshall's -4.5 away from home, totals 54. Now, Marshall won 3 out of their last 4 ball games, and they played some incredibly tough defense. They're allowing just 16 points a game this year, and they're in the top 10 in the country in fewest yards allowed. They're facing a Georgia Southern team who plays little to no defense themselves. They're allowing over 225 yards a game on the ground, and they're in the bottom 5 in total yards given up. Now, total-wise, Georgia Southern saw 3 out of their last 5 get over the line. Meanwhile, Marshall saw overs against the likes of Appalachian State and Bowling Green. I'm going to lean toward Marshall, -4.5, over 54. Next ball game, it is going to be Tennessee at South Carolina, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. The Tennessee Vols are -21 away from home, total 66. Now, the Vols are scoring more points a game than any other team in the nation. They're also leading college football in total yards per game. No real shocker there. They're facing a South Carolina offense who's definitely not built for a track meet. These guys are 92nd in the nation in total yards gained. When it comes to the scoring, 4 out of South Carolina's last 7 did get over the total. Tennessee, 60% to the over this year themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Volunteers, minus 21, over 66. Next ball game, it is going to be Texas Tech at Iowa State, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. The Iowa State Cyclones are minus 3.5, totals 47 and a hook. Now, the Cyclones did lose 6 out of their last 7, and they're scoring only 21 points a game this year offensively. They're also one of the worst rushing teams in the game right now. They're facing a Texas Tech team who loves to sling it all over the field. They're scoring 34 points a game, and they have a top 15 passing offense. Now, scoring-wise, Texas Tech 70% to the over this year. Meanwhile, Iowa State saw overs against the likes of Baylor and Ohio. Give me Texas Tech plus 3.5, over 47 and a hook. Next ball game, it is going to be Boise State at Wyoming, 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Boise State's minus 13 on the road, totals 44. Now, the Broncos did get the W in 7 out of their last 9. And they covered the point spread in 67% of those contests I just mentioned. Now, Boise's been catapulted by some stifling defensive play. They're allowing just 17 points a game, and they're in the top 3 in the country in pass defense. They're facing a Wyoming squad who throws for just 139 yards a game. They're actually in the bottom 10 in college football in offensive passing. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't break the century mark in passing on Saturday. When it comes to the point spread, the Cowboys failed to cover in 3 out of their last 5. Failures to cover against the likes of Colorado State, Hawaii, and San Jose State. Now, total-wise, Wyoming saw their last 3 straight stay under the number. Boise saw unders against the likes of Nevada, Air Force, and UTEP. Give me Boise State minus 13, under 44 in the tight window. Next game, Ole Miss, Arkansas, 7:30 East. Ole Miss is minus 2, total 60. Now, the Rebels are 8-2 on the year, and they've been running it all over the field. They're in the top 3 in the nation in rush yards per game. They're also scoring over 36 points per contest. They're facing an Arkansas defense who struggles to slow anyone down. They're in the bottom 25 in total yards allowed. When it comes to covering the number, Arkansas failed to cover in 5 out of their last 8. Now, the Razorbacks are currently 70% to the over for the year. Meanwhile, Ole Miss went 4-1 to the over in their last 5. I'm going to lean toward Ole Miss minus 2, over 60. Next matchup, it is going to be New Mexico State taking on Missouri, 7:30 Eastern start time. Mizzou's minus 28, totals 47. And I'll tell you this much, for a team laying 28 points, Missouri's had an awful tough time moving the football this year. They're currently 99th in passing offense. Meanwhile, as a team, the Tigers took the loss in 5 out of their last 7. They're facing a New Mexico State team who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves, and they have a real talented secondary. The Aggies are allowing only 176 yards a game through the air. When it comes to the total, New Mexico State went 6-3 the under in their last 9. Meanwhile, Missouri is 80% to the under for the whole year themselves. I'm going to lean toward New Mexico State plus 28, keeping this one close, under 47. Next ball game, Oklahoma State taking on the Oklahoma Sooners, 7:30 Eastern start time. The Sooners are minus 7, total 64.5. And the Sooners have done a real sweet job running the football this year. They're gaining over 220 yards a game on the ground, and they also rank in the top 15 in rushing in that category. They're facing an Oklahoma State defense who really can't stop anybody. These guys are 121st in total yards allowed. They also lost 3 out of their last 5, and they gave up over 35 points a game during that span. Now, total-wise, the Cowboys are 60% to the over for the year. Meanwhile, the Sooners saw 4 out of their last 7 get over the line. I'm going to lean toward the Oklahoma Sooners, minus 7, over 64.5. Next ball game, USC taking on UCLA, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. USC's minus 1, total 75. And even though the Trojans are slightly favored, their defense has had a tough time slowing down the aerial attack. Their secondary is 98th in the country in slowing down the pass. They're facing a UCLA team who gains over 500 yards a game of total offense. When it comes to defensive play, the Bruins are doing a solid job slowing down the run as well. Now, total-wise, UCLA is 70% to the over this year. Meanwhile, USC saw 7 out of their last 10 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward UCLA +1 over 75. Next game, Syracuse, Wake Forest, 8 o'clock East. Wake Forest is -10.5, totals 55. Now, the Deacs are on a 3-game losing streak. Excuse me. Wake Forest, they're on a 3-game losing streak, and they failed to cover in all of those losses. This Wake Forest defense has one of the worst secondaries in the ACC. They're actually 97th in the nation in pass defense. They're facing a Syracuse team who's covering in 60% of their ball games this year. They also have some studs on defense. They're giving up only 20 points a game, and they have a top 10 pass defense. And when it comes to the numbers, Syracuse is 70% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Wake Forest saw 5 out of their last 6 stay under the line. Give me Syracuse +10.5, under 55. Next game, UAB taking on LSU, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. The LSU Tigers are -14, totals 53. And even though the Tigers have really hit their stride here, they failed to cover this year against the likes of Arkansas, Tennessee, and Auburn. They're also facing a physical UAB secondary who's in the top 20 in the country in defending the pass. Now, when it comes to offensive production, not many teams in the country are running the ball better than the Blazers. These guys are gaining nearly 250 yards a game on the ground. And I'll tell you this much, this is an easy game for LSU to look over, coming off a big win. You're playing UAB. I think that program got the death penalty like a decade ago. Obviously, the Blazers are going to come out firing. Total-wise, UAB 60% to the under this year. Meanwhile, LSU saw 6 out of their last 10 stay under the line. I think UAB can keep it close. Give me the Blazers +14, under 53. Next matchup, Colorado taking on Washington, 9 o'clock East. The Washington Huskies are -31, totals 64. Now, the Huskies could score 100 points in this one. Not only are they a perfect 6-0 straight up at home, they're throwing for a staggering 374 yards a game. That currently leads all of college football right now. Michael Penix, he's been amazing. They're facing a Colorado defense who allows more points a game than any other team in Division I. Now, the one-win Buffaloes are also covering just 20% of their ball games this year. When it comes to the total, Colorado's gone 70% to the over this season. Meanwhile, Washington went 7-3 to the over themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Huskies, -31, over 64. Next matchup, Colorado State taking on Air Force, 9 o'clock East. The Air Force Falcons are -22, totals 44.5. Now, the Falcons are a pretty good football team. I don't know if you know that or not. They're 7-3 on the year, and they're running for more yards a game than any other team in college football. When it comes to defensive play, the Falcons allow just 14 points a game, and they have the #1 pass defense in the country. They're facing a 2-win Colorado State program who's scoring fewer points a game than any other team in the nation. Their 12 points a game are the worst in the NCAA. When it comes to the total, Air Force should be able to put this one over the number themselves. They saw overs against New Mexico, Utah State, and Nevada. Meanwhile, 2 out of Colorado State's last 3 got over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Air Force -22, over 44.5. Next ball game, San Jose State taking on Utah State, 9:45 East. San Jose State's -3, totals 50. Now, San Jose State has a very tough physical defense. They're allowing just 19 points a game, and they're in the top 25 in fewest yards allowed. They're facing a Utah State offense who's amongst the worst in the Mountain West. They're 105th in the country in scoring, 103rd in total yards. When it comes to the scoring, the Aggies are 70% to the under this year. Meanwhile, San Jose State went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. I'm going to lean towards San Jose State -3, under 50. Next matchup, Utah, Oregon, 10:30 East. Oregon's -3, total 61. Now, in my opinion here, guys, I don't think the Ducks are good enough on defense. These guys are in the bottom 5 in the country in defending the pass. They're also facing a Utah offense who scores nearly 40 points a game, and they rank in the top 25 in total yards. And aside from winning 8 out of their last 9, the Utes are also in the top 25 in fewest yards allowed on defense. Now, total-wise, Utah saw overs against the likes of USC, UCLA, and Oregon State. Meanwhile, the Ducks are 60% to the over for the season. I'm going to lean toward Utah +3, over 61. Next matchup, Fresno State, Nevada, 10:30 p.m. East. Fresno's -23 away from home, totals 54. Now, the Red Hot Bulldogs won their last 5 straight. They scored a whole bunch of points in the process. Matter of fact, guys, Fresno's currently in the top 25 in the nation in passing yards. They're facing a Nevada team who allows over 30 points a game. They lost their last 8 straight. Now, Nevada saw 5 out of those 8 ball games I just mentioned stay under the number. Meanwhile, Fresno saw unders against the likes of San Jose State, UConn, and USC. Give me Fresno State -23, under 54 in the tight window. Next and final matchup, it is going to be UNLV taking on Hawaii, 11 o'clock Eastern kickoff. The UNLV Running Rebels are -11 away from the mainland, totals 56. And even though the Rebels are struggling right now, they are covering the point spread in 70% of their ball games this year. They're facing a Hawaii team who's allowing nearly 225 yards a game on the ground. They're actually in the bottom 5 in the country in rush defense. And no real surprise here, guys. The Rainbow Warriors are giving up nearly 37 points a game. Now, total-wise, Hawaii saw their last 2 straight get over the line. UNLV saw 2 out of their last 3 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward UNLV -11, over 56. With that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like Georgia -22.5, under 49. Ohio State -27, over 64. Miami Hurricanes +19.5, under 47. Penn State -20, over 44.5. Louisville -3, under 46. Texas -9, over 63.5. Coastal Carolina +1.5, under 44. Buffalo -14, over 49. Utah Tech getting the job done against the spread. South Alabama -7, under 46.5. Troy -15, under 47.5. Louisiana Tech -3, over 65. Florida Atlantic -6, over 51. Minnesota -2.5, under 32 and a hook. Cincinnati -16.5, under 52. Florida International +13, under 51. Western Kentucky +5.5, over 52. Texas State -5, under 51.5. Georgia Tech +21.5, over 63. Stanford +5, over 45. Marshall -4.5, over 54. Tennessee -21, over 66. Texas Tech +3.5, over 47.5 points. Boise State -13, under 44. Ole Miss -2, over 60. New Mexico State +28, under 47. Oklahoma Sooners -7, over 64.5. UCLA +1, over 75. Syracuse +10.5, under 55. UAB +14, under 53. Washington -31, over 64. Air Force -22, over 44.5. San Jose State -3, under 50. Utah Utes +3, over 61. Fresno State -23, under 54. With my next and final free pick for the video, give me UNLV -11, over 56.